In Celtic mythology, the Irish gods are famous for being pillars of ancient wisdom, strength, and embodying the primal forces of nature, as well as the cycles of life and death. From the hills of Ireland to the depths of mythological lore, these deities have impacted various aspects of life and nature throughout history. These are the 6 powerful Irish gods of Celtic mythology. Starting with the father of all, Dagda. He was one of Ireland's most famous mythological gods and was often known as the good god for his generosity. Not only that, but Dagda was also a fierce ruler. He was no ordinary god. He was a sturdy figure and an exceptional warrior. His weapon of choice? His mighty club. One side of the club could bring death, while the other could revive people. But that's not all. He also owned a cauldron which seemed bottomless. Now, why would a god have something like that, you ask? Well, that's because, according to Celtic lore, Dagda could feed countless people from it. And despite him giving away food to hundreds of people every day, the next day, the cauldron would be full again, ready with food for the needy. Dagda's most famous love affair was with Morrigan, the war goddess. He won her over in a battle against the Fomorians, after which he ruled over Ireland for over 80 years. He was kind of like a father figure, a king, and a druid all rolled into one. Most people compared him to other gods like Odin from various other cultures, but if you ask us throughout history, it might be hard to find someone like him. Up next, we've got Dagda's better half, Morrigan. Now, just like Dagda, Morrigan is a huge deal in Irish mythology. Her name means Ghost Queen or Queen of Death, so you know she's got some serious power. She's all about death, fate, war, and destruction, but she's also known for being the goddess of sexuality and fertility. Legend has it that when Morrigan jumped into battle, she wasn't someone warriors would mess around with. The mighty goddess usually transformed into a raven and even drank blood of her enemies. But that wasn't her only thing. When she wasn't in the mood to gulp down blood, she would switch up and turn into a wolf or an eel and go after her enemies like nobody's business. Morrigan was the true definition of a femme fatale and knew how to charm her friends and foes. During the Battle of Mag Tuired, she got a little too cozy with the king of the Tuatha De Danann, and even crossed paths with Dagda, the god of knowledge, getting his blood pumping for battle in their own unique way. Oh, and she wasn't shy about getting involved in the stories of heroes like Cuchulainn, trying to seduce him and causing more drama along the way. You see, Morrigan's one goddess that no one wanted to mess with. She was a whole package with power, passion, and a hint of mystery and magic thrown in. But she wasn't about causing chaos. She was also seen as a guardian of the land and its people. So the next time you see a raven circling overhead, you might just be getting a visit from Morrigan herself, ready to stir up some trouble or bring a bit of luck to your side. Now, Morrigan wasn't the only Irish god with a reputation. Even Lugh had quite the past in Celtic mythology. You see, he's got quite the family tree. While his dad's side is all about goodness and light, his mom's side? Well, let's just say opposites attract for a reason. Lugh's mom's side was known for being a bit darker, with ties to some monstrous beings. As a kid, Lugh narrowly escaped being off by his grandpa, Balor, who had a pretty creepy eye that could kill just by looking at you. Yikes, talk about family drama. But Lugh didn't let that stop him. He grew up to be an amazing blacksmith and genuinely loved his craft. He shared his knowledge with many people around him and truly found his calling. Now, Lugh didn't just have any old job. He was also the proud owner of 2 super important treasures: Lugh's glorious spear and the light sword of King Nada. With these bad boys, he took on some seriously monstrous forces in epic battles, including facing off against his grandpa, Balor. In a classic showdown, Lugh used his trusty sling to take out Balor's evil eye, fulfilling a prophecy and saving Ireland in the process. What's interesting is that the name Lug means light or luminosity, which seems very fitting for a guy who symbolizes the victory of light over darkness. His influence stretched far beyond Ireland, and that's why he's still remembered as a hero today. Well, speaking of heroes, let's talk about one of the oldest ones. Now, when we say this guy's ancient, we mean it. Cernunnos has been around since the Celts and is one of Europe's oldest gods. Legend says that he's a mix of human and animal features, so like a humanoid body but with a pair of horns. He usually wore a torque around his neck or arms, which showed he's all about that noble life. Now, Cernunnos was all about nature. He's the boss of the forests and woods, and he's got a soft spot for both wild and domestic animals, as well as plants. He's the go-to guy for abundance, fertility, and prosperity, and is like the ultimate green flag, but on a godly level. Now, Cernunnos was on the winter solstice, which is known as the darkest day of the year. He married the goddess of spring, Beltane, and about 6 months later, on the summer solstice, he sadly passed away. Guess marriage wasn't in the cards for him. Now, Cernunnos wasn't your average deity. He often carried a purse full of coins, symbolizing wealth and abundance, which he shares a connection with Pluto, the god of the underworld. Now, on to the friendliest god on this list, Goddess Bridget. Known for her wisdom, healing skills, and knack for poetry, Bridget was a total package. Plus, unlike Luke, she had some pretty impressive parents too. She was the love child of Dagda and Morgan, making her part of the Tuatha De Danann crew. So being fierceless was just in her blood. But unlike her mom, who chose unconventional ways to scare off enemies, Bridget ended up marrying a guy named Brace to bring peace between their people. Together they had 3 sons, Brian, Lucar, and Uar, and lived a happy life. Now here's the cool part. Bridget was a triple goddess, meaning she had 3 aspects: poet, healer, and fiery lady. She's the one who lights the forges, sparks inspiration in poets, and works her magic in alchemy. Her influence wasn't just limited to Ireland. She spread her reach all across the Celtic world, even blending with Roman elements to become associated with Minerva, the Roman goddess of wisdom. And get this, she eventually got tied up with Christianity too, morphing into Saint Bridget of Kildare, Ireland's patron saint. Nowadays, February 1st is celebrated as Saint Bridget's Day. Even today, Bridget is still honored, especially in places like Foghart, her birthplace, and Kildare, where she founded a monastery. Her legacy lives on in Gaelic traditions and stories, making her one of the most revered figures in Irish folklore. And if you find this as interesting as we do, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. The last one is the one and only Nuada. Nuada was the very first king of Tuatha De Danann, which is a group of powerful beings in Irish mythology. He was also known as Nuada Argatlam, which means Nuada of the Silver Hand, after he lost his hand in a battle with the Fir Bolg, another group of people they encountered when they first came to Ireland. Despite losing his hand, Nuada was a god of many things, from sea to healing and warfare. Nuada could control it all. He was kind of like a mix of Roman gods Mars and Neptune, and even the Norse god Tyr. Not only that, but he was also linked to the sun, youth, beauty, and magic. One of the coolest things about Nuada was his sword, the Invincible Sword, or Sword of Light. It was one of the Tuatha De Danann's most precious treasures, and was said to be able to deal fatal blows to enemies. After losing his arm, Nuada couldn't be king anymore because Tuatha De Danann's kings had to be perfect. So they replaced him with another guy, who ended up causing chaos all over Ireland. Now, that didn't sit well with Nuada. So as a favor, his brother and a skilled craftsman made him a new silver arm, and with that, He was back in charge in no time. There were some big battles after that, including one where Nuada was killed by a guy named Balor. But thankfully, Lugh avenged him and took over as king. Well, that's it for today. But if you want to find out more about mythology, make sure to click on this next video.